Well, hey, back down here in the Velocette garage. It's knocking on the middle of March 2025. And when I last left you, it was back in November, was when I stopped working on Velocette number 4. You may or may not recall the issue with this bike. It had sat for about 30 or 40 years and hadn't run. And I put a new refreshed magneto on it and rebuilt the carburetor and replaced the carb that was on there. Got it running. It was starting up just about as nice as any Velocette that I have. I mean, it was eager to start and run. But it was blowing steam like a friggin' steam engine. We're gonna have to tear into the motor and see what's going on. So first thing we've done, taking the gas tank off, and now we'll pull the carburetor off, pull the exhaust system off, take the rocker box off, the oil circulation lines, remove the rocker box, remove the cylinder head, and take a peek at the piston and see if we have a loose piston, if we have worn piston rings, or if oil is leaking down the valve guides. So that's what we're up to, middle of March 2025. And if we're lucky, we ought to be able to turn this around in a couple of 2-3 weeks or so. And it would be nice to be able to ride around on this this spring. If I can get the smoking issue sorted out, the next thing we will want to do is pull the wheels off and change the tires, because these tires go back to the 1970s, so kind of pushing their life expectancy a little bit. Don't want to run around on tires that old any more than you have to, you know. So it's just money, man. It's just money, So anyway, in anticipation that she's going to need new rings, new piston, maybe cylinder bore, I found in stock on the shelf new piston rings, wrist pin, and these are all parts that I'm going to need to put the motor back together again after I take it apart, and some parts that have got to be installed after that is all sorted out. Come up with a new chain cover for the front half of the chain. I've got a original rear chain guard on it, but I was missing that piece there for the front of the chain cover, so you don't snag your pants in this sprocket as it's spinning around at 4,000 RPMs or whatever. So anyway, hey, we're back down in the Velocette shop, and looking forward to the next couple of weeks worth and work and see how we do. I'll keep in touch with you. Well, hey, Friday afternoon, day 1 on the latest segment. As you can see, the engine is torn down, cylinder, rocker box off, cylinder head off, cylinder off, piston removed. And did I learn anything? It certainly is a nice clean piston. I just wiped it down. I mean, there was no carbon buildup on it or anything like that. So clearly, this is an engine that had been taken apart not too long ago from when it stopped running. Back in I think it was the late 70s that this bike was last run. So I'm going to have to dig a little bit further into this. I'll pull the cylinder barrel off next and start checking the clearances between the piston and the cylinder wall. It could be that this engine was what they call decoked. Somebody took it apart to take the carbon out of it, take the carbon off of the cylinder and off of the piston, and that perhaps this piston is loose in the cylinder, or we've got an issue with the rings, and we won't be able to take a look at the rings until we pull the cylinder barrel off. In the meantime, I've got the cylinder head over here on the bench, and I filled it up with some carburetor cleaner just to see if there was any evidence of any leaks in the valve seats. Wouldn't tell us about the guides, but it would tell us about the valve seats, and you know, appears to be holding and not leaking. And again, that's not under compression, so probably not the most scientific test in the world, but nonetheless, it's, you know, just something to check in the process of doing things. So I guess next I'll raise the cylinder off of the piston. No score marks at all. It appeared that it had had the piston replaced, and not too many miles had been put on it since then. So I get back to, why on earth is it smoking? Well, you know, it's blowing oil into the cylinder. So pulled the piston out, and interesting, in looking at the top of the piston, I noticed it's kind of like a mark around here that seemed a little odd. By the way, one side, exhaust side of the piston, you can see some soot and carbon from it burning oil. But anyway, as I look on the inside of the piston, I don't know if you can see that down at the very tip, but clearly there's a puddle of weld down there. So it would appear to me that at some point somebody burned a hole in the top of the piston. And rather than replacing the piston, they decided to just fill it in with aluminum weld and, you know, repair the old piston, because the rest of it seemed to be in pretty reasonable shape. So anyway, that would not necessarily have anything to do with why it's steaming up out the exhaust pipe and blowing oil out, but it's just kind of interesting. But anyway, what I did notice is that the design of this piston is different than the replacement piston that I have, and it's got these oil passageways that let oil, I'm not exactly sure how it functions. If it's letting, as the piston goes up, the oil ring scavenges, actually it'd be this way, scavenges the oil that's inside the crankcase, and whether it hits the theory is it hits the piston ring and then it's pushed out these little drainage slots. I don't know. At the same time, it could be working the other way. It could let oil sneak in past the oil ring if the oil ring wasn't seated properly. And guess what? I took the rings off and checked the end gaps on the rings, and the oil ring was just about bottoming out with no clearance. So it seems to me that when it expanded, it heated up, there'd be no end gap in the piston ring, and that would mean that the ring wasn't seating properly, and perhaps not sealing out the oil, and maybe that's why the oil was coming through, because the oil ring wasn't gapped properly, end gapped. You got to have a little bit of a space. You put them inside, put the ring inside the cylinder, and then with a feeler gauge you check the gap, and it was like almost none, or there was like 4 1,000ths or something, and it's supposed to be like, you know, I think it's 10 1,000ths or something like that. It might even be a little more than that. So anyway, the piston is a little suspect with these slots and with the piston ring gap not being right on the oil ring. Not really an issue on the compression rings. They seem to be, you know, in the ballpark. But hey, maybe that's the issue. The other thing is because of this repair job in here, that this piston might be, pistons are a little oval anyway. They aren't completely round, but you know, maybe this one is a little distorted in shape, and that perhaps contributed to the whole situation. So anyway, we're going to put in the new 20 over or piston that I have, I'm just going to do a light pass hone on the cylinder wall because it really is in quite good shape. I'm not even sure I'm going to do it, but I'm think about it overnight as to whether I just run a quick hone through it, just etch a little bit of a pattern in it. But frankly, there's no scratches, there's no score marks or anything, so I'm a little bit tempted just to leave it alone, and hopefully this is going to be what the cause of my white smoke steaming out of the exhaust pipe, because oil is just getting into the cylinder combustion chamber. And then at the same time, I'm going to try to address some of the issues that I had with oil leaks, and I'm going to fit a breather. This vintage of these Velocette Venoms didn't have a crankcase breather of any kind. Now, usually you put it on below the magneto and to drill that out and tap it and everything. You got to split the cases. I don't particularly want to do that. So I think I'm going to put a breather up in the rocker box, and that should help the cause a little bit. And then I'll seal up everything real good now that it's all apart. And so that's where we're at day one, 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and enjoying a Narragansett, a Narragansett, and work on your Velocettes. So hopefully next week we can start putting the engine back together again. I do want to do a little more research on end gap, because there's some contradictions in the literature that I have based on the kind of piston that it is. The Hepalite split skirt piston and the solid skirt piston, and I don't actually know what the brand of the replacement piston I have is, although I know it doesn't have any kind of a split in the skirt, so I think the Hepalite spec would probably be the right one. So we'll see into that. And I just want to give you an update, because I know you like hanging on pins and needles. What's going on with Velocette number 4? Well, now you know where it's at. Velocette project number 4 continues.